So we are in John chapter 10 today, Teachings of Jesus. And I want to open with a story about these three sisters who lived together, and they were getting on in years and getting kind of absent-minded and confused. And one morning, one of the sisters, she was upstairs in the bathroom. She yells to another sister downstairs. She says, "Emily, I've got 1 foot in the bathtub, 1 foot on the floor. Am I getting in or getting out?" And Emily says, "Oh my goodness." She goes rushing up the stairs. She gets about halfway up. She stops. She looks around. She yells at her sister down below, "Sarah, was I going up or going down?" And Sarah, sitting at the dining table, she's listening to all this, and she goes, "Oh, my Lord, I'm so grateful I'm not so mixed up like my sisters, knock on wood," which she did. A moment later, she looks around and says, "Was that the front door or the back door?" Well, I laugh because I'm almost there. I sometimes turn to Christy and say, "So was that something on television or is someone at the front door?" When we hear our front door knocking, someone knocking on our front door, it's kind of a moment of excitement or dread, or, it's like, what is this? Something's about to happen in our lives, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And so we rush to see what it might be. Doors are just in everywhere part of our lives. Doors and gateways and entryways. As I sit here and I look around, I see quite a number of doors. It's kind of surprising when you just look around. So communion door, and then the door here on the outside of the communion door coming in. 1, 2, here's the door, 3, 4 coming into the sanctuary, 5, 6, upstairs, 7, 8, and then there's this little short door that looks like a little hobbit door, and it's the plumbing underneath the baptistry area. So at least 9 doors that I can just see right here all around me. And when you think about it, how many doors do you walk through on average on a typical day? Lots and lots of doors and entries. And so it's just a regular part of our lives. You can play a game. Think in your mind how many doors are around your house, all in and around your house, sheds, barns, cars. How many doors do you have? Think about it, and then predict, and then get up after the worship service, walk around and count them. It's a game. We'll see how you do. Jesus liked to take ordinary things like this, like doors, gateways, entries, and use that to teach us all in a very profound way. This is what he does in John chapter 10. So we're going to explore doors quite a bit today. When you think about it, a door usually does 2 things at once. It's an exit, but it's also an entrance. 2 things at once. Every day, in lots of ways, we feel the need to exit, right? We leave the place we're in, we put it behind us, at least for a while. We exit because we're finished with whatever our task was in that place. Maybe it's the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom. Whatever needed doing, we're done, and we move on through a door and on to the next. When our first baby, Shane, was about to be born, Christy's mother, Clara, flew down to LA to help us out. When I got to the airport to pick her up, I stood there anxiously awaiting. I was desperate for help because I was new at all this, and I didn't know how to help my wife through this very difficult time. For Christy, this went on for days and days, and it was a very, very difficult time leading up to delivery. And so Clara came, and as she walked through that, long hallway and doorway and came in, I was very emotional and very grateful she was there. Well, she was wonderful, and she helped us. She cleaned up newborn messes. She cooked delicious meals. She helped where help was needed. And then she'd step back and allow us our space and our privacy. She was wonderful, this nurse, Clara, who was also a wonderful mom. Then, after a couple of weeks, we were getting the hang of this, and it was time for Clara to leave. Her task was done, mission accomplished, and out the exit door she went, the apartment door, and left for Oregon. Exits. They're an important part of life, and that's what I'm doing this summer. I'm going to exit this job, this role as pastor, and retire. It honestly is one of the difficult decisions I've ever made. Retiring from ministry is so difficult because ministry is about relationships, really. And church is family. And so it's a very difficult decision. I remember visiting a little village in Scotland years ago. And I was outside of this little Scottish church, and one of the members was there, and I got talking to him. He said his pastor was approaching 90 years of age. And I said, well, is he ever going to retire? And he said, many ministers in Scotland never retire. It's a lifetime job. That was a new and strange idea to me. As I get closer to retirement door, I can see why some ministers can never bring themselves to leave. But there comes a time for everything. When a task is done, it's done, and there are exits in this life. And one of the things we must all do is to learn to exit thoughtfully, graciously, not resisting or kicking at this part of life. Doors are exits, but at the same time, they are entrances. A door means that there's some other place on the other side. There's some new experiences. It means hope and possibility, new adventures, new relationships. It can mean hardships yet to come, as well as opportunities. This time of quarantine and stay home, stay healthy during this pandemic has been strange and disorienting for a lot of us. And obviously there's some things that are just terrible about it. There's things I hate about it. All of those who have suffered, who have died, who have lost loved ones, we mourn with them. The healthcare workers who have given so much, worked so hard, and sometimes without adequate protection. There are, of course, many people who struggle with isolation and depression anyway, and then this came, and now they're deeper in that hole. I feel so sorry for businesses that have been hard hit and may have to close. And it's just plain rotten, those young people who are missing out, whether they're in drama or in choirs or in sports, or they're seniors about to graduate. They're missing out on some cherished events. My dream of taking people to the Holy Land and to the Passion Play of Oberammergau that I've worked so hard on, and Christy and our friend Tim have worked so hard on, that was going to happen this month. We would be packing our bags right now. But it's not going to happen. Not this month. In 2 years it's going to happen. And I hope a bunch of you decide to join us and come with us in 2 years. But never did I dream that this would happen. There's so many ripple effects of this virus and all that it has meant. Now, there's been some benefits too. Some of us are learning how to cook. Some of us are going for walks in our neighborhoods like never before. Kids are home more, and that can be tough on moms and dads or grandparents, but it also can be great. Kids have more time to read and create and watch the bugs running and watch plants grow and bloom. And some people are discovering the slower, a little bit slower pace and a little bit less on the schedule, what advantage there is in that kind of living. Well, maybe it felt like we got shoved through this door. Not all doors are welcome. But here we are, and we're making the best of it. And we look forward to the next door that's going to open into a more free and full life that we're more used to. The virus under control, church doors flung wide open, schoolyards noisy, restaurants full with chatty people, baseball diamonds with dust flying. Looking forward to that door, that entrance. So a door is an exit and it's an entrance. And so when Jesus talks about being a door or a gate, it resonates. We get that, don't we? He offers an exit from one kind of life and at the same time an entry to a new possibility. So let's take a closer look at this door, this gate that he speaks of. In John 10, at verse 7, Jesus summarizes what he's been trying to explain to people around him. He says, "Truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. And all who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." One of the great British theologians and preachers many years ago was Leslie Weatherhead. I love his books and I recommend them to you. He spent some time, extended time in the Holy Land, and he observed and learned while he was there. And he later wrote a book called Over His Own Signature. And it's in one of the chapters, he discusses this teaching of Jesus. And he describes what it's like in the Holy Land. And it hasn't changed much, this part. We must remember, he wrote, that in the East now, as in the days long ago, a shepherd goes in front of the sheep, leading them, not driving them from behind, as is the case in the West. He goes on, he says, let's imagine that it's evening. The sun is setting, the shadows lengthen. We can see the shepherd coming over the shoulder of the hill, making for the sheepfold down in the valley. The sheepfold must be described. It consists of 4 high, rough walls surmounted by thorns fixed along the top so as to keep out the thief and the robber who might climb up. In one of the walls, the one nearest the stream that threads its way through the valley, there is a space a little wider than a person's body. The shepherd precedes the sheep, and then what the shepherd does is he stands in the gap. He stands in that gap that's in the wall, explains Weatherhead, and he faces outwards, and he calls his sheep to him by name, and they come toward him over the hillside. Let's imagine the first sheep approaching the shepherd. It's the leader, a strong, healthy animal. The shepherd, however, looks at it carefully for some briar that might be clinging to its fleece, causing it discomfort, Then, satisfied that all is well, the shepherd turns his body sideways, like this, sideways, so that the sheep may move past him into the fold. The shepherd literally is the door. When the sheep pass by him, it is safe. Weatherhead continues in his description. He talks about one sheep after another entering through that shepherd door. And here is a sheep who is injured, perhaps. A rock fell upon him or some such. And he takes some oil and he massages that oil on the sheep. He anoints my head with oil. Remember that line from the most famous psalm? The shepherd gathers up water with a two-handled large stone cup, and he brings it from the stream for the sheep to drink from. My cup overflows. Again, Psalm 23 comes to mind. Weatherhead writes, here is one sheep approaching now that looks very jaded, out of sorts. Kind of like me some days, you some days maybe these days. The shepherd lifts the big stone cup brimming full with water, and lifting the water, he's still and it becomes quiet, that water, and the sheep can drink it. When the sheep is refreshed, the shepherd turns his body again, and the sheep passes into the fold. Now the sheep are all folded. The shepherd does not rely on any temporary hurdle or gate to close this entrance. He builds in this gap a fire, okay, with himself on the inside near to the sheep. Then crouching over the fire, he eats his evening meal, watching over his flock by night. Finally, having made up the fire, he wraps himself in his cloak. With his feet to the fire, he lays down near the sheep. The bleating slowly ceases, and as the stars shine out, the shepherd may rest, as the sheep do, in perfect safety. Wild animals may be near. Indeed, the cry of the hyena and the jackal and even the wolf may be heard, but the wild animals are terrified of fire. They cannot jump the high walls crested with thorns, and the gateway between the wolf and the sheep is not only the fire, but the body of the shepherd. I love hearing that description. Now, I can just picture it, all of it. And Jesus' teaching means so much more to me. I am the door, Jesus says at verse 9. Whoever enters by me will be saved, will come in and go out and find pasture, have life and have it abundantly. Jesus is the door to salvation, that is, to freedom from the thieves and wolves, all those destructive forces that can tear us down. It was true then, and it's true now. We are haunted by past hurts, hounded by present threats and challenges. It's also overwhelming sometimes. Thieves are pacing, wolves circling, but then we realize there is a door, a shepherd who is our door, who guides and guards and lays down his life for us. We are saved, given new life, and a pasture full of new possibilities. I came, says Jesus, that they may have life and have it abundantly. There's one word here that Jesus uses, and I think it's good for us to pause and ponder it. We might rush right by it and not think about it much, but I think it's important. And it's the word enter. Enter. Verse 9, he says, whoever enters by me will be saved. A lot of people are interested in Jesus, but not everyone enters through that door. Someone called this a front porch faith. They stand listening on the front porch. And they're looking at that door, and they think about it once in a while. It's a doorstep devotion, a front porch faith. And they might get close, but they never open that door. There was this American fella who decided to go to Africa, to Zimbabwe, to visit a friend who's a farmer there. And so he traveled there, and he met up with his buddy, and his friend showed him the large farm operation one day. And then he said, "Tomorrow morning, I want to take you on an adventure. There is a lion who lives nearby, and we're going to track him down." Well, the American said, I don't know about that. And then the more he thought about it, he thought, that would be amazing, could be life-changing. He said, "I'm in." And so the next morning, they got up early, and they were walking down this trail, and the farmer looked down and he said, "Ha, we're in luck. Fresh tracks. Our lion is nearby, looking for his next meal." And the American stopped and said, "Whoa, wait a minute." He says, "I've got a better idea. You go on and find out where he is. I'm going to go back and find out where he came from." Well, not everybody who sees the tracks follows them. Not everybody who stands on the front porch enters. Jesus says, "I am the door." And he offers the door. Actually, the way I picture, the door is standing open. It's not shut tight and locked. The door is open. And so the question is whether we enter. And Jesus offers a way of life that's abundant, he promises. Freedom and joy. Shalom, which is God's peace that brings people together, desperately needed in this hurting and divided world. The beauty and wonder of worship he offers. Magnificent love, real love. And we stand there on the front porch, and we look at that open door, and we see someone who's presenting an exit and an entry unlike any other. So friends, let's don't just stand there on the porch. Enter. Amen.